Let me start by saying this: we were wrong. Catastrophically, embarrassingly, universe-alteringly wrong. My name is Zorax Trell, Senior Xenobiologist of the Galactic Confederation, and I am recording this as both a confession and a warning. I need everyone to understand what happened when we decided humans were the weakest species in the known universe. Another useless report, Captain Quinn Narlax huffed, tossing the datapad across the conference table. 7 years studying these humans. And what do we learn? They cry during mating rituals they call weddings. They weep over fictional characters in entertainment streams. They form emotional attachments to inanimate objects. Pathetic. I retrieved the datapad, brushing imaginary dust from its screen. With all due respect, Captain, their emotional responses make them fascinating subjects. Fascinating? More like disappointing, Narlax replied, his 4 eyes blinking in sequential disapproval. The Council expected warriors worth conquering. Instead, we found creatures who need therapy because their parental units didn't hug them enough. The command center of our research vessel, the dominant paradigm, hummed with the quiet efficiency of our technology. Through the view screen, the blue-green orb of Earth rotated slowly, oblivious to our judgment. We had been monitoring humans for nearly a decade, and the Galactic Confederation was growing impatient for results. Dr. Ilara Voss, our psychology specialist, cleared her throat. I believe we are overlooking something crucial, and their emotional volatility could be. Could be what? A strength? Narlax laughed, a harsh sound like stones grinding together. They have built their entire civilization on feelings. Their economic systems collapse because of consumer confidence. Their leaders are selected based on likability. Their wars start because someone's feelings got hurt. It's absurd. I glanced at Ilara, noting the slight purple flush of her neck tendrils. She disagreed but wouldn't challenge Narlax directly. None of us would. His species, the Crow, were notorious for their ruthless pragmatism and complete emotional suppression. They considered it their evolutionary advantage. The Council wants a recommendation, Narlax continued. Do we invest resources in diplomatic relations, or do we simply take what we want? Looking at these humans, I see no reason for diplomacy. Lieutenant Pax Drell, our military strategist, leaned forward. Their weapons are primitive but numerous. Conquest would not be without cost. Cost is relative, Narlax replied. What's the cost of dealing with a species that needs emotional support animals to function? That breaks down crying during simple communication exchanges? That requires chemical substances to feel pleasure? Those are outlier behaviors, I argued, not representative of the species as a whole. Narlax fixed all 4 eyes on me. Are they? Show me the evidence. I couldn't. Our data overwhelming suggested humans were emotional creatures. What I couldn't quantify was my growing suspicion that this wasn't a weakness. And the decision is made, Narlax announced. We will proceed with a limited intervention. Establish a base on their moon, demonstrate our technological superiority, and offer them a choice: voluntary servitude or forced compliance. Captain, Ilara ventured, perhaps a small-scale experiment first. We could select a sample group. Excellent idea, Narlax interrupted. We will take a human community, something isolated but not too small. Study their response to direct contact before committing our full resources. And that's how it began. Our catastrophic miscalculation. Our path to regret. We selected Riverdale, a coastal town of approximately 15,000 humans in a region they called Oregon. Remote enough for containment, large enough for meaningful data. Our insertion was scheduled for their early morning hours, when most would be in their sleep cycle. Remember, Narlax briefed the intervention team, these creatures are emotionally fragile. They will likely respond with panic, then surrender. Document everything. The Council wants proof that minimal force is required. Lieutenant Drell adjusted his atmospheric suit. Rules of engagement, sir? Non-lethal approaches, unless absolutely necessary. "We are not barbarians," Narlax replied with a smugness that made my inner chambers contract. "But don't hesitate to demonstrate superiority if they resist. A little fear will accelerate their compliance." I joined the ground team as scientific observer, despite my reservations. Someone needed to document what was actually happening, not just what Narlax wanted to see. Our ships descended through Earth's atmosphere at 0300 local time. 3 assault craft, 1 command vessel, 50 personnel. We expected confusion, fear, possibly some primitive defensive measures. What we didn't expect was preparedness. "Captain, they are awake." "All of them," Drell reported as our scanners swept the town. Biosignatures indicate elevated heart rates, but organized movement patterns. "This isn't panic." Narlax frowned. "Impossible. They couldn't have detected our approach." "Nevertheless, they are mobilizing," Drell insisted. "And, sir, they are armed." Narlax waved a dismissive hand. "Primitive projectile weapons. Proceed as planned." Our ships positioned themselves at key points above the town. I watched from the command vessel as our technology easily overwhelmed their power grid. The town went dark, except for scattered points of light that had to be emergency generators or battery-powered sources. "Deploying ground forces," Drell announced. 60 seconds to boots on surface." The assault teams descended on gravity platforms, illuminated by the harsh blue light of our stabilization fields. They looked imposing, terrifying even to me, and I knew they were my allies. 30 warriors in exo-armor carrying non-lethal subjugation devices descending from the sky like the demons of human mythology. "First team down," came the report. "No resistance yet. Streets are empty." Narlax smiled. "They are hiding." Predictable. Then the first explosion hit. Our forward assault team disappeared from sensors in a flash of heat and light. The command vessel rocked from the concussive wave. "What was that?" Narlax demanded, his composure cracking for the first time. "Improvised explosive device," Drell replied, voice tight with surprise. "Crude but effective." "We have lost contact with Team 1. "Impossible," Narlax hissed. "Their weapons can't penetrate our armor." "They didn't target our armor," Drell said, reviewing the data. "They targeted the ground beneath our troops. The explosion created a sinkhole. They are trapped." Before Narlax could respond, another report came in. "Team 2 under fire. Multiple directions, coordinated attack pattern." The view screen showed chaos. Our troops, expecting terrified civilians, instead faced organized resistance. Humans appeared from buildings, drainage channels, even from beneath camouflaged positions in what appeared to be decorative vegetation. "This is absurd," Narlax sputtered. "They are supposed to be breaking down emotionally, not mounting a defense." I watched in horrified fascination as the humans demonstrated something we hadn't accounted for, adaptive creativity born from their emotional nature. They weren't using advanced weapons, but they were using their environment with devastating effectiveness. Team 3 reports the humans are using our communication frequencies. An officer called out. "They are broadcasting music?" Indeed, through the tactical channels came the unmistakable sound of human music. Something rhythmic, aggressive, with vocals about never surrendering. "Cut the connection," Narlax ordered. "I can't, sir. They have somehow locked our frequencies open." A new voice broke through the command center. Human, female, calm despite the chaos. "Attention, alien forces. This is Mayor Dana Forrester of Riverdale. We have been expecting you." Narlax froze, then slowly turned to the communications officer. Two-way connection. Now. When the channel opened, he spoke with forced calm. "This is Captain Quinn Narlax of the Galactic Confederation. How did you know of our arrival?" The human laughed, a sound that sent an uncomfortable ripple through my sensory membranes. "We have known you were watching for years. Did you really think we wouldn't notice? All those cattle mutilations, crop circles, and abductions. Subtle you are not." I exchanged glances with Alara. We had done none of those things. Other observers, perhaps? or human paranoia that accidentally prepared them for a real encounter. Your resistance is noted but futile, Narlax replied. We possess technology beyond your comprehension. Maybe so, Mayor Forrester replied, but you don't understand humans at all. As if to punctuate her point, another explosion rocked one of our assault ships. Warning lights flashed across the command console. Status report, Narlax demanded. They have somehow attached magnetic devices to our hull, the tactical officer reported. Crude explosives, but placed at structural weak points. How could they know where to hit us? I had a theory, but it wasn't one Narlax would appreciate: human entertainment. For centuries, they'd been creating stories about alien invasions, working through countless scenarios of how to fight superior forces. What we saw as frivolous emotional fiction, they had turned into preparation. Captain, Drell's voice came through, strained. We need to withdraw. Team 2 is surrounded, Team 1 is trapped, and Team 3 reports the humans are using some kind of adhesive substance to disable our exosuits. Adhesive substance? Narlax repeated incredulously. Some kind of expanding foam, Drell clarified. It hardens on contact with our armor joints. They are laughing while they do it, sir. The human mayor's voice returned. Here's what's going to happen, Captain Narlax. You are going to recall your forces, release our people that you have captured for study over the years, and then we are going to talk. Like civilized beings. We have captured no humans, Narlax replied, genuinely confused. There was a pause. Well, somebody has. And since you are the first aliens to show up on our doorstep, you get to deal with it. Consider it a diplomatic opportunity. I couldn't help myself. I laughed. A short, surprised sound that earned me glares from everyone on the command deck. Something amusing. Xenobiologist Trell? Narlax asked coldly. They are negotiating, sir, I replied. Despite being technologically outmatched, they are acting from a position of perceived strength. It's remarkable. It's insolence, Narlax snapped. He turned back to the communication panel. Mayor Forrester, you leave me no choice but to demonstrate our true capabilities. Before you do anything hasty, the mayor replied, you should know we are broadcasting this encounter live to every major government on Earth. The whole planet now knows you exist. Whatever you do to Riverdale will determine how all of humanity responds to your civilization. The command center fell silent. This was no longer a controlled experiment. This was first contact on a global scale, initiated not by us but by the supposedly primitive emotional beings we'd come to subjugate. Captain, Ilara said quietly, I believe we have significantly underestimated human emotional responses. What we are seeing isn't panic or fear. It's adaptation, cooperation, determination. Narlax's facial ridges darkened with blood, a sign of extreme stress in his species. This was supposed to be simple. They were supposed to surrender. Perhaps, I suggested carefully, we should consider Mayor Forrester's offer to talk. The next 12 hours were the most humbling of my scientific career. While Narlax retreated to his quarters in what humans might call a sulk, Ilara, Drell, and I found ourselves in negotiations with the humans of Riverdale. They had indeed been preparing for years, ever since their monitoring systems detected our observation satellites. What we thought was primitive technology had been deliberately maintained alongside more advanced systems they kept hidden. They had studied our observation patterns, noted our interest in their emotional responses, and correctly guessed we might see it as a weakness. We figured any species that couldn't understand the value of emotions might try to exploit us, Mayor Forrester explained as we sat in their municipal building. So we gave you what you expected to see. You manipulated our research? I asked, professional pride wounded. She smiled. We exaggerated. Those reality TV shows you seem to monitor so closely? Pure performance art. The social media emotional meltdowns? Often deliberate entertainment. Drell leaned forward. But your wars? The conflicts over resources, territory, ideology? Oh, those are real enough, Forrester admitted. We are not perfect, but we are not the emotional weaklings you thought we were, either. Our emotions don't cripple us, they fuel us. Fear becomes courage. Love becomes sacrifice. Anger becomes determination. As the sun rose over Riverdale, I watched humans rebuilding what our brief conflict had damaged. Working together, laughing despite the stress, comforting those who were frightened. Their emotions weren't weaknesses. They were connective tissue, binding individuals into a collective strength we had completely failed to comprehend. You should know, Forrester said as our meeting concluded, that we have prepared response scenarios for decades. If you'd come in peace, you would have found welcome, since you came as conquerors. She shrugged. Well, you have seen a small sample of our resistance capacity. And if we had simply destroyed your town from orbit? Drell asked bluntly. Then the rest of humanity would have known exactly what kind of threat you pose, she replied without hesitation. And believe me, Captain, what you saw today would pale in comparison to how humans respond when we are truly threatened. As we prepared to return to our ship, to face Narlax, to report our catastrophic failure to the Council, Alara asked the question that was troubling all of us. Why didn't you? Respond with maximum force, I mean. You clearly knew we were coming. Mayor Forrester's expression softened. Because despite your intentions, no one had to die today. We wanted to show you that humans are capable of restraint as well as resistance, that our emotions include mercy and curiosity, not just fear and anger. She paused. Was I right to hope you might learn from this? I looked at my colleagues, seeing the same realization in their postures that I felt in my core. We had come to study humans, believing ourselves superior. Instead, we had become the subjects of their experiment, and they had proven their hypothesis. Yes, I told her. You were right to hope. And I, for one, have learned more today than in 7 years of observation. As we departed Earth's atmosphere, leaving behind a global civilization now fully aware of extraterrestrial life, I knew the Galactic Confederation would never view humans the same way again. The species we had dismissed as emotionally weak had just delivered a master class in turning perceived weakness into unassailable strength. And for the first time in my career, I felt something I had always studied in others but rarely experienced myself: regret. Deep, humbling regret at how profoundly we had misjudged these remarkable beings. The Council would not be pleased with our report. But they needed to hear it. Because if there's one thing more dangerous than an enemy you respect, it's an enemy you underestimate. And humans, we now understood, should never be underestimated again. The return to our mothership resembled what humans call a funeral procession. Silent, solemn, weighted with failure. Captain Narlax stormed ahead, his exoskeleton clicking against the metal flooring with each angry step. The Council connects in 30 minutes, he announced without turning. And prepare your excuses. Alara shot me a concerned glance. These aren't excuses, Captain. They are observations. Critical scientific findings. Critical scientific findings? Narlax whirled around, all 4 eyes pulsing with rage. You mean how a primitive species outsmarted the Confederation's finest? How they turned our own technology against us? How they broadcast our humiliation across their entire planet? Lieutenant Drell cleared his throat. To be fair, sir, they showed remarkable restraint. They could have killed our ground forces. Restraint isn't victory, Lieutenant, Narlax hissed. It's patronizing. I couldn't help myself. Perhaps that's the point. They demonstrated emotional maturity beyond what we expected, beyond what we ourselves display. The command center fell silent. Questioning a superior's emotional control was taboo in Confederation culture, particularly with the Kraul. Narlax's breathing apparatus fluttered rapidly. Prepare the data. All of it. The Council will decide our next course of action. As he marched away, Alara moved closer to me. What happens now, Zorax? Now? I sighed, watching Earth rotate peacefully below us. Now we face consequences. The Council of 7 appeared as towering holograms in our communication chamber. 7 species, 7 philosophies, one unified purpose, expansion of the Confederation. We stood before them like chastised younglings. Explain this catastrophe, demanded Arxis Pell, the hegemony representative. His gelatinous form rippled with displeasure. Narlax stepped forward. A miscalculation, counselor. The humans demonstrated unexpected. Not unexpected, I interrupted. Unobserved. We saw what we wanted to see. The council's attention shifted to me. Normally, I would never speak out of turn, but normal ended the moment humans upended our understanding of sentient evolution. Xenobiologist Trell acknowledged Cirelavox of the Luminari Collective. Your report suggests these humans weaponized their emotional responses? Not weaponized, counselor. Harnessed. There's a difference. I activated the display terminal, showing footage from Riverdale. Observe how they function under pressure. Where we expected panic, they demonstrated coordination. Where we expected surrender, they showed innovation. They rejected our superior position, Narlax countered. This requires correction. Counselor Drax of the Myriad leaned forward, his scaled face unreadable. What do you propose, Captain? A demonstration of force. One human city, completely neutralized. Show them the cost of defiance. My inner chambers constricted. That would be a catastrophic error. The xenobiologist speaks out of turn again, Narlax noted coldly. The xenobiologist speaks from evidence, I replied. Humans respond to threats by unifying. Their history demonstrates this repeatedly. External pressure doesn't fragment them, it coheres them. Ilara stepped forward, data tablet extended. Permission to present psychological profiles, counselors? At their nod, she continued. Humans possess a unique psychological adaptation we have misinterpreted. Their emotional responses aren't evolutionary weaknesses, they are sophisticated social technologies. The display showed human brain scans alongside our own species. Where most Confederation species evolved to suppress emotional responses as we developed technology, humans integrated them. They don't compartmentalize logic and emotion, they synthesize them. Fascinating but irrelevant, Narlax interrupted. The question isn't how they think, but how they must be controlled. Counselor Cirelavox raised a luminescent appendage. Perhaps control isn't the appropriate approach, Captain. Xenobiologist Trell, what alternative do you suggest? Before I could answer, an alert blared through the command center. Lieutenant Drell hurried to the monitoring station. Counselors, we have a situation, he reported. Multiple human spacecraft have launched. They are on an intercept course with our position. Impossible, Narlax scoffed. Their technology can't reach lunar orbit without months of preparation. These launched from a hidden facility, Drell replied, voice tight with surprise. Configuration unknown, not matching any observed human aerospace designs. The council members exchanged glances. You assured us they were centuries from achieving interplanetary capability, Arxis Pell accused. They were. Narlax protested. Our intelligence confirmed it. I moved to the scanner display. The approaching craft were unlike anything in our human technology database. Sleeker, more advanced, using propulsion systems we hadn't observed in their public space programs. They have been hiding their capabilities, I murmured. Just like Riverdale hid their preparedness. Incoming transmission, announced the communications officer. The main view screen activated, revealing a human female in what appeared to be a military uniform. Her dark hair was pulled back severely, and her expression conveyed calm authority. The Galactic Confederation vessel, this is Admiral Renata Valdez of the Earth Defense Alliance. Your actions against Riverdale constitute an act of war against humanity. You will power down weapons systems and prepare for boarding, or we will respond with appropriate force. Narlax actually laughed. This is absurd. Their spacecraft are likely primitive missiles. Defensive countermeasures only. Sir, Drell interjected. Sensors indicate these vessels are equipped with, sir. They appear to be running on antimatter containment drives. Silence engulfed the command center. Antimatter technology was a Tier 2 advancement. Humans were classified as Tier 5. Impossible, Narlax whispered. Evidently not, I replied. Admiral Valdez's voice cut through our shock. We are transmitting coordinates for a diplomatic rendezvous. You have 30 minutes to comply. Be advised that your vessel is currently targeted by multiple planetary defense systems. The transmission ended. The Council holograms flickered as they consulted privately. This changes everything, Councillor Drax finally announced. Captain Narlax, you will comply with their request for parley. Councillors, with respect, Narlax began. You will comply, interrupted Arxis Pell. Your mission is now diplomatic, not military. Xenobiologist Trell will lead the contact team. I felt all three of my hearts stutter. Councillor? You have demonstrated understanding of these humans that others lack, Sorella Vox explained. You will represent Confederation interests. Captain Narlax will remain on the vessel as a precautionary measure. The look Narlax gave me could have flash-frozen a star. As you command, councillors. 4 hours later, I found myself aboard a human spacecraft unlike anything I had expected. Clean, efficient, with artificial gravity and environmental controls matching Confederation standards. Admiral Valdez led our delegation, myself, Alara, and Lieutenant Drell, leading through corridors populated by humans who regarded us with professional curiosity rather than fear or hostility. You seem surprised by our technology, xenobiologist Trell Valdez noted. I admit to some adjustment of expectations, I replied carefully. She smiled. Not the warm expression Mayor Forrester had used, but something sharper. Good. Adjustment is what this day is all about. We entered a conference room where several humans awaited. I recognized Mayor Forrester among them. Welcome aboard the Ida Prometheus, Valdez said, gesturing to seats designed to accommodate our physiologies. Now, shall we discuss the terms of your departure from Earth orbit? Admiral, I began. The Confederation apologizes for the unfortunate events at Riverdale. A misunderstanding. Let's be precise, interrupted an older human male. Not a misunderstanding. A miscalculation. You believed us weak because we experience emotions. You plan to exploit this perceived weakness. That's not a misunderstanding, it's a fundamental error in judgment. This is Director Marcus Okafor, Valdez introduced, Earth Defense Intelligence. I inclined my head respectfully. Your assessment is fair, Director. May I ask how long humans have possessed this level of technology? Our observations suggested. Your observations showed exactly what we wanted them to show, Okafor replied. We detected your monitoring satellites 15 years ago. Rather than destroy them, we used them to feed you selected information. A deliberate deception, Ilara noted with professional admiration. A defensive measure, Forrester corrected. We have had enough science fiction to know that first contact can go very wrong. We needed to assess your intentions. And we failed the test, I acknowledged. Spectacularly, Valdez agreed, though without malice. Now we need to determine whether your entire civilization shares Captain Narlax's attitudes, or if there's potential for a different relationship. And the implications stunned me. They weren't negotiating from weakness, they were evaluating us as potential associates. The Confederation encompasses many philosophies, I said carefully. Captain Narlax represents one perspective. Others, including myself, see greater potential in cooperation than conquest. Prove it, challenged Okafor. How? Tell us about regret, Forrester said quietly. Does your species experience it? Do you understand what it means to recognize a moral failure and wish to correct it? The question struck me like a physical blow. Not because it was difficult, but because it exposed the very distinction that had led to our miscalculation about humans. Yes, I answered truthfully. Though we experience it differently than humans appear to. For my species, regret is computational, and a recognition of error and a recalibration of future behavior. For the Krau, like Captain Narlax, regret is seen as weakness, an unnecessary emotional response to logical outcomes. And which perspective does the Confederation officially endorse? Valdez asked. That's complicated, I admitted. Our unity is based on practical cooperation, not shared values. Okafor leaned forward. Then let me simplify it for you. Humanity isn't interested in joining or surrendering to a civilization that views emotions as weaknesses. We have spent thousands of years integrating our emotional and rational capacities. Our greatest achievements come from passion guided by reason. Our art, our science, our very survival depends on it. What Director Okafor means, Forrester added more gently, is that any relationship between us must be founded on mutual respect, including respect for our emotional nature. I looked at Alara and Drell, seeing in their postures the same realization that was forming in my mind. These humans weren't just negotiating terms, they were offering a lesson in interspecies relations that the Confederation desperately needed. I believe, I said slowly, that this encounter may benefit the Confederation far more than we anticipated, though not in the way we expected. Valdez raised an eyebrow. Explain. You have demonstrated that emotional capacity, properly integrated with rational thought, creates adaptability we haven't achieved. The Confederation stagnates because we have prioritized order over innovation, stability over growth. Perhaps we need what humans have. And what's that? Asked Forrester. The ability to feel regret, to recognize when we have erred not just strategically but morally, to want to be better, not just more efficient. The humans exchanged glances. Something passed between them, an unspoken communication I couldn't decipher but recognized as significant. That, said Okafor, is a start. What followed was the most extraordinary diplomatic exchange in Confederation history. Not a negotiation of terms, but an exploration of values. Humans didn't want our technology, they had developed their own, often along different paths that suited their unique psychology. They didn't want our resources, Earth provided abundantly. What they wanted was assurance that the galaxy contained others who could understand them. We have been alone for so long, Forrester explained during a break in the formal discussions, wondering if we were unique in our emotional complexity. Finding others among the stars has been our dream for centuries, but finding others who would despise our very nature has been our nightmare. And which are we? I asked. Dream or nightmare? She smiled. That depends on what you take back to your council, what you truly learned here. 3 days later, I stood before the Council of Seven again, not as a failed researcher, but as a diplomatic envoy with unprecedented news. Humans request neither our protection nor our guidance, I reported. They offer conditional alliance based on mutual recognition of sovereignty and shared principles of interspecies respect. This is unprecedented, Arxis Pell rumbled. A Tier 5 civilization dictating terms? With respect, Counselor, our classification was flawed. Humans are at minimum Tier 3, possibly higher in specific domains. More importantly, they have evolved along a different path than Confederation species. They have integrated capabilities we have traditionally seen as contradictory. What capabilities? Demanded Drax. Emotional sophistication with technological advancement, individual expression with collective action, competitive drive with cooperative achievement. I paused. They feel deeply, yet function rationally. They form attachments that we would consider weaknesses, yet these bonds strengthen rather than compromise them. You sound impressed, xenobiologist Trell, noted Sorella Vox. I am, Counselor, and humbled. We approached humans as subjects to be studied and potentially subjugated. They responded by teaching us about ourselves. What do you recommend? Asked Vox. I took a moment to organize my thoughts, aware that my next words might shape Confederation policy for generations. I recommend we accept their terms for alliance. More than that, I recommend we establish a permanent diplomatic and cultural exchange, not to study them as specimens, but to learn from them as equals. Learn what, precisely? Arxis Pell demanded. how to integrate what we have sacrificed in our evolution, how to reclaim the emotional intelligence that many of our species discarded in favor of technological advancement. But you suggest we become more like them? Narlax interrupted from his position at the edge of the chamber. Emotional? Unpredictable? Chaotic? I suggest, I replied evenly, that we recognize different evolutionary paths can lead to similar destinations. Humans achieved spaceflight not despite their emotions, but partially because of them. Curiosity, wonder, ambition, these drove them to the stars as surely as logic and reason. The council deliberated privately again. When they returned, Sorella Vox spoke for all. The Confederation accepts human terms for alliance. Xenobiologist Trell, you will establish an embassy on Earth with a cultural and scientific exchange program. Captain Narlax, your ship will return to Confederation Space 4, reassignment. Narlax's exoskeleton stiffened, but he offered no protest. As the council transmission ended, Ilara approached me. Congratulations, Ambassador Trell. That title feels premature, I admitted. But appropriate, she insisted. You understood humans when the rest of us saw only what we expected to see. No, I corrected. I simply recognized my own ignorance sooner. The humans taught me that preconception is the enemy of discovery. 3 months later, I stood with Mayor Forrester, now Earth's liaison to the Confederation, watching the sunset from what would become our embassy in Riverdale. The town had insisted on hosting us, a gesture of reconciliation that still humbled me. Your Captain Narlax was reassigned? Forrester asked. To a remote observation post, I confirmed. The council felt his perspective was no longer compatible with our new relationship with Earth. He must regret his actions quite deeply, she mused. Actually, that's the problem. He doesn't. The Krall physiologically cannot process regret as you understand it. They can recognize tactical errors, but not moral ones. I turned to face her. That's why this exchange is so important. Many Confederation species have evolved away from emotional processing. We have come to see it as inefficient. And now? Wow. Now we wonder what we have lost, what advantages we have surrendered in the name of order and reason. Forrester smiled. It's ironic. You came to teach us about galactic civilization. Instead, we are teaching you about what makes civilization worth building. The irony isn't lost on me, I assured her. Nor is the opportunity. As the sun disappeared below the horizon, I experienced something rare for my species, anticipation tinged with joy. Not the satisfaction of completed calculations or successful experiments, but something more profound. The sense that the universe had more to offer than I had imagined, and that my preconceptions had been my prison. Humans had been right. Emotions weren't weaknesses. They were windows into possibilities that pure logic could never reveal. You know, Forrester said softly, for beings who supposedly don't understand emotions, you are getting pretty good at showing regret. How so? You came back. You admitted error. You changed course. That's what regret looks like in action, Zorax. Not feeling bad, but doing better. I considered this. Then perhaps we are not as emotionally stunted as we believed. Perhaps we have simply forgotten how to recognize our own emotional responses. That, she said with a smile, is the most human observation I have ever heard from you. Coming from her, I understood it was the highest compliment she could offer. And for the first time in my scientific career, I felt something beyond professional satisfaction or intellectual curiosity. I felt pride, not in my accomplishments or knowledge, but in my capacity to change. To recognize error, not just as data to be corrected, but as an opportunity for growth. Humans had taught the mighty Galactic Confederation its first lesson in humility. They had made us feel regret, real, transformative regret, and in doing so, they had given us a gift beyond measure. They had shown us how to be better than we were. And that, I now understood, was the true power of emotions. Not weakness at all, but the greatest strength the universe had yet evolved.